My name is Desiree and I'm with Functional Strength Pilates, and today I want to take you through a series of very simple but very effective stretches and methods to release tension in the low back and hips. Low back pain is quite often associated with tightness around the hips, so I like to address both areas at the same time. And if you are somebody who wakes up in the morning with a really stiff back, or you find yourself having back pain by the end of your day, or you find your hips and low back really tight after sitting at your desk for a long time, or driving in a car, anything like that, this could become a go-to routine for you because it is so very effective and, again, very simple, and for most issues in the back and hips, very safe. So we're going to start off laying on your back with your knees bent and your feet on the floor. And you want to just make sure that your pelvis is staying nice and stable. You'd love for it to be as neutral as possible, but if you're very tight, you might find that your pelvis is a little bit tipped into an anterior rotation, pubic bone toward your belly button. You want to release that down toward the mat as much as possible. We'll bring one leg into your chest, trying to keep your pelvis down. Hold the back of that thigh with both hands, and you'll just gently stretch that leg toward the ceiling and bend it back down. And you want to kind of lock yourself in so that your leg, your thigh bone, is not moving toward you or away from you as you straighten and bend your leg. Use your hands and arms to help you keep that thigh as still as possible while you straighten and bend. If you notice that as your leg gets straighter, you push your back into the floor, try to relax your back and tip your pelvis just a little away from you so you can lengthen your hamstrings as much as you're able to without pushing your back into the mat. On this next one, we're just going to keep that leg however straight you can get it without putting pressure into your back. Point your foot, flex your foot, breathe. Point, flex, and breathe. You'd love to get this leg as vertical as possible, but once again, we don't want to do that at the cost of putting pressure into the low spine. Circle your ankle a couple of times in each direction. And then we're going to use our arms to pull that leg toward and away. In this motion, you might get a little bit of movement in your pelvis. You'd like to keep your pelvis as still as possible. However, as long as it's not causing you pain, it's okay to let a little bit of movement occur there as you just pull the leg towards you with your arms and press it away. Next, we're going to use our arms to support the leg and take it just a little bit across your midline toward the other side. Doing that's going to increase some stretch around the outer hip and your IT band. We'll do that a few more times, breathing and taking the leg across your midline and back to center. And those of you who know me or who've watched my other videos will have seen this or something similar to it in a lot of my videos. These are go-to stretches for me because, again, simple, very effective, and very safe. Using your outside hand on the outside of that leg, try to keep your pelvis stable and take the leg out to the side just a little. Use your inner thigh to bring it back to center. So we're basically mobilizing that thigh bone within the hip socket. The left hip, or the opposite hip rather, is going to stay down and stable as you move the leg. Last one. And then you'll bend your knee and just kind of squeeze it close to you. If the front of your hips are tight, this is going to feel a little pinchy in the front of your hip. That is okay, just try to relax it as much as you can. And then we'll put that foot down. Again, maintaining a neutral pelvis, or as neutral as you're able to. Hold the back of your other thigh, and we'll repeat that. We'll straighten your leg however much you can, and bend it back down. You're looking for a still thigh bone and a stretch from your sitting bones up toward your toes, and then we'll bend it back down. Watch that you don't push into your back as your foot rises. On the next one, we'll stay up and point and flex your foot. Try to keep your thigh bones still. Try to keep your back muscles relaxed. And then we'll circle your ankle a couple times each way. And then you'll use your arms to pull the leg toward you and let it go away. Again, you're trying to maintain as much length through that leg as possible, so it's pretty straight. You're trying not to put pressure into your low back, but you may feel a little rocking in your hips. If that happens, I'm okay with it as long as it's not causing you any pain. We're just warming up at this point. We have lots more stretches ahead of us. So next, we're going to use your hands to help you take your leg across your midline toward the opposite side, where you'll start to feel some stretch, most likely through the outside of that working leg. You might feel it in the hamstrings or elsewhere, depending on where you are tight. Bringing that leg across. Breathing is always important. Try not to hold your breath when you're stretching. When you're back up vertical, we're going to take that leg to the outside, using your hand, that same side hand to help you. Make sure your pelvis stays down and stable with your other hand. And you'll just take your leg out to the side a little. Use your inner thigh to bring it back towards center. Again, out to the side, and your inner thigh will bring it back towards center. Relaxing your back. Try not to put any pressure in your back. If you feel a lot of pressure in your back here, you can use your hand to help you more and take your leg a little lower. Then we'll bend that knee, hold onto your shin with both hands and squeeze it in close, trying to keep your pelvis down and just kind of squishing the front of that hip. It might feel a little pinchy, but you can just try to let that go and breathe. Okay, having done those, I'd like to do some knee folds next, and here's how we'll do them to start out. Keep your feet together, but take your knees apart, hip distance or a touch wider than hip distance. We're going to do knee folds on this kind of odd angle out to the side. So you'll inhale one leg up toward your armpit, exhale that same leg down. As you move, your goal is to keep your pelvis stable. Inhale the other leg, exhale it down. We're keeping the back relaxed. Abdominals pull into your spine as you bring your leg in. Exhale, abdominals to your spine as you lower your leg. Inhale and exhale. This is kind of an unusual take on knee folds. Keep moving. But I find that when there's a lot of tension in the low back, it kind of helps us find a way in. Last set. Last one. And then we'll bring your knees together. Feet are still together. Now we'll do some regular knee folds. Again, keeping your pelvis stable. Inhale one leg toward your chest. Exhale it down. As we loosen up some of the tension around the hips and low back, you may find that you start to feel your abdominal muscles more supportive. That's a good thing. We want that. Last set. And last one. So the next thing I want to do actually just kind of leaves the hips out a bit. We're going to interlace your hands behind your head. Bring your elbows toward the ceiling a little bit. Let your head fall back into your hands like a heavy bowling ball and come up into just a low ab curl. We're going to use your arms to move your head. So it's almost like when you're at the chiropractor or getting a massage and moves your head for you. You're using your arms to do it, and your neck and head are as passive as possible. And doing this, really dropping the head into your hands and letting your neck relax, may even give you some little adjustments through your upper back. You can twist if twisting feels good, and kind of rotating. And then we'll come back to center. So next we're going to come up to standing and do some standing exercises. The first one's called the single-legged mornings. For these, you'll stand with all of your weight on one leg, and keep the other leg either fully unweighted and squeezing toward your standing leg, or very lightly rest your toes on the floor. You want most of the weight on your standing leg. I'm going to turn sideways so you can see it more easily, that the movement is very much at the hip and not in the spine. And we just tip forward and tip back up to vertical. If you need those opposite toes on the ground for balance, use them. Otherwise, press that foot toward your standing leg or just let it dangle in space. Keep your standing leg straight. Keep your spine very stable. So you'll see that I'm kind of wobbling. The balance is crazy hard on these, right? So it's okay to struggle a little with your balance. Struggling with your balance actually works your proprioception, and it works some of the smaller muscles in your hips, etc. And that is good for us. We'll stay up and change to the other side, same thing. The back stays really stable, and we just hinge and come forward. The more weight you're able to keep in your standing leg, the more likely you are to feel some stretch and some toning action around the back of the hip on your standing leg. A few more here. You do want your head to stay in line with your spine. This headset is a little loose, so sometimes I hold my head a little funny, just so I don't let it drop. All right, let's stay up and take your legs apart. So for the next one, we're essentially going to do the same thing. I want you to take your legs wide and then a little wider, so you're wider than your normal comfort zone. And everything else about this is the same thing you just did. You're just going to hinge at your hips and come up to vertical. I'm going to turn sideways again so it's easier to see that the spine is not really moving. The movement is in the hip sockets. If you have access to a mirror when you do these, it's nice to see your reflection so you can notice if you have a hip that tends to shift. So I'm going to face you again so you can see what I'm talking about there. You don't want one of your hips to rotate backward or forward. You want them to stay really even as you bring both sitting bones back, and then your hips come under you. We'll do two more this way. Last one. And then you'll stay up and walk your feet in. Next, we're going to do just a few split squats. We'll take one foot forward, the other foot backward, make a pretty big distance between your 2 feet. So be already almost in a lunge. The back heel is lifted high, and unlike some of the other kinds of lunges you may have done, the back leg's going to remain straight. You will bend your front knee forward over the center of your foot, and then to go back, push the floor away from you with the bottom of your foot. This is an important thought to me because I don't want you to straighten the leg by pushing your knee backward. I want you to get down into that foot and pull yourself back through the back of that hip. We'll lunge forward however low you can tolerate. Back leg stays straight, back heel stays high. Push off the front foot to come back. Again, we'll do a couple more here. This is another place where you may feel your balance really wobbly, and I'm okay with that. It's a good thing to fight for your balance. Again, it strengthens some of your stabilizers, it strengthens your proprioception, it's good for your nervous system. Last one here, and then we'll switch sides. Again, make a pretty big space between your 2 feet. Back heel stays lifted the whole time, and we lunge forward. Both legs are parallel. Push the floor away with the bottom of that front foot. And we push the floor. If your knee bothers you on these, go less low, and just be really mindful of getting your weight down into the foot so you're not holding on to, you're not holding your weight up with your knee. Two more times. And the last one of these. And then we're going to go back to our single-legged mornings and do another set of those. Hinging at your hips to come down a little and right back up to vertical. Keeping your spine really stable. If you happen to feel your back in these, go a little less low. But mostly you want to just make sure you're not moving your spine, and I think you'll feel the majority of this in the back of your standing leg. And again, it is both stretching and toning to that standing leg. We'll stay up this time and switch to the other side. One more here. And then we'll stay up and take your legs apart wide, and then a little wider, and reach forward and come back up to vertical. And I said reach forward, but really I kind of want your sitting bones to reach backward so you're not rounding your spine. The spine stays nice and flat. All of the movement and articulation is really around the hips. And again, if you feel it in your back at all, go less low. These little movements are simple. They're probably not YouTube exciting in terms of something fascinating to watch, but they are really very effective. I call them low-cost, high-return movements because you will get a lot of strength and mobility out of them. And I think if you tend to be tight or walk your feet in, you'll get a lot of relief from back pain and hip pain from them. So the next thing we're going to do is some shoulder bridging. You'll bring your heels in towards your bottom. Your feet will be parallel, hip distance apart. And if your knees feel really tight, you can have your feet farther out. But I tend to find that heels in, however close to your sitting bones your knees will allow, will help you to get a little more range out of your spine. So you'll press your arms down, curl your tailbone under, roll yourself up into a bridge. And when you're in these bridging positions, it's really important to focus down here on lifting your hips and thighs as opposed to on shoving your back up toward the ceiling, right? You want to curl under a little and really lift those thighs higher and higher. And then roll your chest down, ribs down, waist, hips, and tailbone. And then we'll do that again. Arms pressing into the mat, curling your hips up, focusing on lifting those thighs however high you can, and roll your chest, ribs, waist, hips, and tailbone down. If you feel these in your back, go less low. And also, if you feel these in your back, try to keep yourself just a little bit more plank-like. So you'll lift in a plank and then roll through your spine as you come up. And then you'll come down most of the way, uncurl your spine so you're in a plank, and lower yourself down. I'm going to show that version one more time, and again, that's just if you're really vulnerable in your low back and having some acute back pain. So you lift just a little, roll up from there, roll yourself most of the way down, and then uncurl so you're in a plank and lower flat down. If you're fine doing the articulation, I actually think the articulation is really great, so do the articulation if you can. We'll roll up and stay up, whatever version you're doing, stay up there, get your hips really high, take your arms up and to the mat behind you, and then roll your chest down, roll your ribs down, keep your hands and head on the mat as you roll your waist, hips, tailbone down, arms by your side, 2 more like that. Rolling up, nice and lifted, arms to the ceiling and then back, and then rolling your chest, ribs, waist, hips, and tailbone down. We'll do one more of these. So this little series that we just did is a kind of a collection of some of my favorite decongesting movements, right? They just clear out some of the congestion that we get in our muscles from being chronically tight, from sitting a lot, from maybe working too much or working out too much, or sleeping on a really soft bed, or whatever the case may be for you. Also, just normal aging, I'm finding out, tends to tighten us up as well. So I hope these are helpful for you. Try them out. Let me know in the comments how it goes. We will be adding some more advanced movements to our video collection soon, but I have a lot of clients who have requested things like these, just really simple little routines that you can do at home, between workouts, when you get up in the morning or at the end of your day, just to help loosen things up and relieve some pain in your low back and hips, and just make you feel better every single day. Please subscribe, share, and follow along with us as we continue our YouTube journey.